Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Sandy, and I am the founder and the Chief Love Officer at LastFirstDate.com. I want to thank you all for joining us today here at Last First Date Radio, and you're going to be hearing a courageous conversation about achieving healthy, off-the-charts love in the second half of life. My special guest today is Lisa Schmidt. She's a certified dating coach, and she's going to be talking with me about the number one reason why successful, strong women are still single today. I wonder if you can guess what that is. As a dating coach myself, I love helping women date as the high-value person that they are in every other part of their lives, because when you know your true worth, you attract your most aligned, best partner. And most women who come to me for support are amazing mothers. If they are moms, they are successful in the workforce, but they have challenges when it comes to romantic relationships. And one of the mistakes that I notice over and over again is that women often date with the same energy that they bring to work. And we're going to probably be talking a little bit about this today. They bring that competition and that sense of one-upsmanship, which, I was a person who used to love witty banter and sarcasm, and I was harsh. I was told much later on by somebody I had a major crush on that the reason he didn't date me is because I was harsh. I had a harsh exterior, and that kept me separate from the men that I liked. So I can't wait to talk to Lisa more about this. And what I've done is I've taken the top 3 mistakes that I see women and men making over and over again in their dating life, and I've compiled a free guide to help you to, if you are making those mistakes, to undo them, to take actionable steps to actually undo the mistakes that you might be making that are sabotaging your love life so that you can go on your last first date. And so if you would like a copy, you go to lastfirstdate.com, my website. It's pretty much on every page. There's a place to sign up for my free guide, and I would just love if you could do that. So let me introduce my guest, Lisa Schmidt. She is a certified dating coach and a regular contributor for Singles Warehouse Dating Group, the Huffington Post, and Elite Daily. She helps both men and women who feel lost in dating, and she helps them to do something about it. So a lot of people get lost, they get stuck, but they don't do anything. She helps people figure out what's holding you back and helps you move forward without obstacles, doubt, or a mindset of fear. You will be the person you want to date and know how to attract and sustain the relationship that you desire with Lisa Schmidt. And so here we go. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi. So, Lisa, we're talking about femininity and women who are successful out there, smart and successful. Why are they still single? What do you think?
This is like my favorite topic, and I really could talk for like an hour on it because it is this huge mishmash of what we are born with, what is in our DNA, what we are really meant to do and be as far as relationships. And it gets all messed up by how we're socialized and other women that we hang out with, other women that we talk to, because we are not supposed to be, and I don't like to use the word suppose, but we're not men. And, there's this constant influx of information for women that, tells you, you have to beat down every door, you have to push through every glass ceiling, you got to think like a man, you got to act like a man, you have to talk like a man, and now you have to date like one too. Well, as I tell women, a man that wants to date another man is not a heterosexual man. So, right. So if you want a healthy heterosexual relationship, if you're a woman that wants to date another man, you have to embrace your femininity, submit to the notion that being more feminine is not literally submitting to a man. You know, there's ways to do, you have to allow that feminine energy to be a part of your life, and sometimes you need to check it at the door.
Yeah. So, so a lot of women get angry when they hear things like this. And my friend Bobby Palmer, who I just spent the weekend with, she was talking about this out loud, about how the feminine movement screwed women up for dating because
it did.
Right. So many people are afraid to say that. And, you know, and we need to qualify it because I think a lot of women think, well, we should go back to, you know, Leave It to Beaver and have, you know, June Cleaver with the apron on waiting for her husband to come home. And that's not at all what is meant by that statement. So you tell us what is meant by how the feminist
movement. You know what
the
funny thing is I actually wrote an article about this for the Huffington Post, and it's called "Femininity and the Modern Woman Dater." And even some feminists, modern feminists, have come out to say, like, you guys screwed us. But here's the thing, you know, modern women, when, you know, what's going on right now is, you know, you have all these little memes of Marilyn Monroe with all these quotes and, you know, how to be powerful and, you know, I don't know, like I could go on and on, but yeah, we can have it all. We can do all of these things, and we can do it all with a baby on our hip and a cell phone glued to our ear, but we can't do it with the attitude of men have kept us down, right? And constantly giving the middle finger to men, because that is basically sexism in and of itself, right? So we want to fight against sexism with sexism. No, that doesn't work. So, you know, all of the movements that have happened for us, for women, everything from voting to Rosie the Riveter, you know, Jane Fonda, all these things, they tell you, you know, how to be this powerful woman, but nobody says to you, yeah, but it's not going to be easy, and you have to not completely reject your femininity. Be a little more soft than you are hard. Submission, it's not forfeit. It's just an exchange of power. You're exchanging power for love, you know, and none of these women will tell you, date your husband, continue to date him, you know, continue to have sex with him, continue to take pride in who you are, what you look like, continue to keep that attraction going, you know, and not be solely concerned with what your power is. Because when you create a power struggle in any situation, especially a relationship, someone is always going to feel less than. And in situations where women create a power struggle and they make men feel emasculated, then now they start to think, like, what did I get into here? And that is when they start to seek other things outside of the marriage on occasion, or then, you know, they start to sort of fight back, and then it becomes this power struggle on both sides. And, you know, we don't have to compete with them. That's what they have buddies and careers for. And once in a while, we just got to let them be the hero. We got to let them do things for us. And it's as simple as, you know, letting a man pull out a chair, open a door, hold your coat for you, asking for his opinion or his advice. I mean, that shows so much respect. And, you know, you don't have to get down on your hands and knees and submit to this man, but part of you needs to allow that femininity to come out and submit. There's no other words that I can use, and I'm not saying kowtow, but submit, like let go of the notion that it's some kind of like forfeit and you're giving up. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, I love what you say about power, and I've talked about this a lot too, that an ideal relationship, you're powering with somebody, not over or under.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people don't really get that, you know, often. And I think that the whole idea of emasculation, that was a new concept to me when I started dating again after my divorce. And I realized that many of the things I had done were potentially emasculating. And I think if we can't take a good look at what we're doing, and it's often subconscious, that we're wondering why we keep getting the same results. So why are you dating the same man with a different face over and over? Or what a lot of women say, especially women who are over 40, is that I feel like his mom. I don't want to be a mommy. But what happens is you've set it up. You've often set it up, but you're giving him advice. You're not trusting that he can do things for himself. So then you get frustrated, do it for him, which is emasculating, right? So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. It's that if you want a different result, look at yourself and what you're putting out there. And this goes for people who are married too. I mean, it doesn't just mean for people dating. So you've talked a little bit about femininity and what it means to have that feminine energy. So some of it is allowing a man to show up and be a man and do what men feel is masculine, right? So by being chivalrous, by being asked to give an opinion, that really makes a man feel more masculine. It doesn't mean you don't have an opinion, right? It just means that you value his too. And so what about things like women offering to pay? And this is a huge area of conflict for women. They say, well, I have the money. I earn a lot of money. Why would I want a man to pay for me? I actually had a woman not hire me because I wouldn't let her pay on a date. And she said, well, then I can't work with you because I totally disagree with you.
Well, here's the thing.
How do you feel about that?
Courtship, modern courtship, is so flawed and it's so screwed up right now. And, women, again, we're clinging to this notion that, I can do for myself. I don't need a man to do for me. Okay, that's great. You should not give yourself over completely to somebody and lose sight of who you are. But in the beginning, part of allowing that femininity is allowing him to pay for the dates. And if there's any men listening, you should be planning the dates. That's a masculine move. You want to, that's great. We're going to meet at 7. I hope you like Italian. I'm going to take you to Luigi's. It's my favorite place. I'll see you at 7. So bam, then you take away all the crap of the conversation of, do you like Chinese? No, I like sushi. No, stop all of that. That
you pick a place.
Crazy. Yeah. So the man should be stepping into that masculine power and planning the date. The woman should, be allowing him to plan the date. And I know that right now sometimes people are kind of like, they go that back and forth with it. And that's, that's fine. I mean, you can't really tell somebody what to do in that sense. But on the first couple of dates, let him pay. What is the harm in letting him buy you a cup of coffee or lunch or dinner? Because that is him expressing interest. And this is what women lose sight of. When he plans the date, when he pays for the date and then asks for another date and pays for that second date, he is continuing to choose you. Not just once, but 2 times, but 3 times. He is making a conscious choice to invest in you. So why would you see it as anything else other than an investment in moving this relationship forward? When you start to hit those 3rd and 4th dates, there's no reason that you can't pony up for a couple of drinks at the bar or offer to pay for the dinner, maybe pay for the activity that you're doing after the dinner or before or whatever it is. You take care of the Uber and drinks and dessert, whatever. Because in the beginning, when you're creating a struggle, a power struggle, and you have to remember what it is that you love about being a woman. What is that tangible thing that produces that emotion? And you got to get in touch with that. And for some women, it's about getting back in touch with it and really embracing what it feels like to be a woman in general, right? And, so when you're out on these dates, is he pulling out the chair? Is he opening the door? Is he opening the car door? Is he doing the, masculine move of hand on the back or the back of the arm to sort of lead you? So let him lead you. Let him just give him that. Just let him have it.
So women really struggle with this, and then they complain that men are too weak. But it's like this double standard. You want a man to take charge, but you haven't allowed it. And so, you and I have talked about the allowing. It's, The way I see it also is that if you don't create space for something, it doesn't show up. So if you're always pushing forward, right? I remember there was somebody had taught me this kind of mythological way of looking at how the world was created. And they use this is like a Kabbalistic thing where they say that God created space for the world by contracting himself. And, whether you believe in God or not, I just love that concept of God took up all this space, but he contracted himself to allow this amazing world to come forth. So, I just think that's kind of how I view relationships, that we are full, we are whole. And when we contract ourselves a little bit to allow in, a man feels welcomed rather than your time slotting him in. You don't really have the time. You don't really want him to pay. You don't really want him to be a man. So why show up at all?
Well, and I think what happens a lot of times, too, is the thing that women, and I think sometimes men forget to do a little bit, too, is to sort of let that mystery unfold and be the present that you are and let somebody slowly unwrap that to get to that gift inside, right? And sometimes as women, because we're told to be a little bit more forceful and get what you want, ask for what you want. Sometimes we forget that it's just as important to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's so funny because people are like, they get really shocked when I say that. And I'm like, sometimes you have to shut up. Seriously, like just be quiet. Let somebody else talk for a minute, right? And, in women, I think a lot of times when you're talking about that whole push-pull of, they want a man to be a certain thing, but then he's not living up in another aspect, right? So then there's this push-pull with him and a power struggle. So, they don't know how to just chill out and sort of let things casually unfold. And what women don't understand about men, because I work with a lot of men and women live in two different maybes. The maybe part of the beginning of the relationship, the maybes that he's asking himself, like these what ifs or what you could be, are completely different than the ones that you're thinking in your head. So when you live in two different maybes and you're not really cognizant of how the other side sort of like thinks or is hardwired, or how in general what their sort of preferred method of communication is, and then what that person does on an individual level, your maybe takes over. And this is why women come across as needy and pushy and bitchy in some senses, right? Because they don't know what the other maybe is. They don't even think about what the other maybe is. They're just in their maybe. And a little checklist is going off in their head, right?
Yeah, so what's the maybe that you're talking about? Because, I'm thinking in my head some things that I want to hear from you. Like in a woman's head, maybe what?
So, like, maybe this guy is going to be my husband. Maybe this guy is going to ask me to marry him in 6 months. Maybe this guy, maybe. But all the maybes of, like, fairy tale, Prince Charming kind of stuff, and the maybes that the guy lives in is kind of like, yeah, maybe this girl's cool. This is cool. Maybe I'm going to ask her out again on Saturday. Maybe if she sticks around, I might think about taking her to my cousin's wedding in a couple of weeks. Hey, maybe she'd be cool to hang out with the game on Sunday. Like, very casual. There's no, like, maybe this is my wife. Maybe this is who I want to have kids with. No, not like in the beginning. Those could be sort of like fleeting thoughts, but they're not predominant thoughts. It's like, maybe she's not crazy like the rest of them, and maybe this is one I want to kind of take my time with. And when he takes his time with you, he's very interested.
Right.
And that should just be unsaid. But women, it's just like, the maybe is all part of that checklist. Like, okay, maybe this guy is going to, like, eventually get me to that zip code I want to live in, and maybe he is going to make that six figures, and maybe he is going to drive that car that I want him to drive, and, maybe he is going to be like this great dad that I've, been dreaming of for 30 years, and subconsciously, when you think all these thoughts, it comes out in how you speak, how you act, your nonverbal communication, i.e. your body language, how you ask questions, how you don't shut up, and all of these things, and then all of a sudden he goes, whoa, your maybe's a little crazy for me. And he's like, I'm gonna go find a new maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the maybes. That's cool. My friend Bobby Palmer says date to discover, not to decide. And that's what women do. Decide, let me decide. Oh, is he have potential to be my husband or my long-term partner? And if he doesn't, the clock is ticking. Sorry, go on to the next, or project, and then they start pushing. Which turns a man off, and often if they just stop and, let it unfold. But also, there's something about this mystery unfolding, which both men and women do, and I think things change a little in midlife where I've seen a lot of men do a lot of these women behaviors, these so-called women behaviors, with me on a date. So, they're rushing. I had a guy on the second date told me I was the one, planning dates that were ridiculous before we knew each other. Like one guy wanted to take me on a yacht. Yeah, like cater a yacht for our first date. And his friends told him, no, don't do that. So it's just like stuff like that that's scary. Yeah, it comes across as needy, and we don't want to date needy people. But the mystery part, I think, people telling the whole story. You need to know all of these things about me. You need to know that, that I have diabetes and that I'm a survivor of breast cancer, and that my parents were dysfunctional. I have an eating disorder too, by the way, and all those things are fine if you get to know somebody really well and fall in love with them. And I was sitting next to somebody over the weekend on this retreat I was on. And she said, do you think a man will date me? I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I had a mastectomy. Do you think a man will want to date me? Which is a good question, but it has nothing to do with her as a person. And
absolutely.
I wouldn't take your shirt off on the first date at the restaurant. I don't think that's a good idea. What I told her is, get to know a man. And when you're ready to take your shirt off and, and he has embraced all of you, then a good guy is going to embrace all of you. That's really, we're not perfect. But don't unfold all of that in 5 seconds. No one can handle it.
What's interesting about the statement that she made, and God bless her for, surviving that, when we think and when we speak out loud from a place of lack, we verbally out loud devalue who we are. And subconsciously, when we think about that and when we say it enough, we start to retrain our brain that we are of less value because we are missing 2 breasts, right? So, now you're out there. That is part of your nonverbal communication now. That is part of these subconscious things that you're carrying around on dates and when you're meeting people and when you're looking at profiles online. So, it's interesting to me when anybody asks me about what I do and, how the process works and, where do we start? Well, we always start with you. This is, you have to be the person that you want to date. You have to have your baggage in order. I have to understand what your mindset is toward dating, toward the opposite sex or the same sex, if that's your choice. And you need to come in self-aware and understanding what your value is and placing it, not that you're above someone, but placing a higher value on who you are as a human being. This has nothing to do with what you look like or how big your boobs are or whether or not you have them.
Yeah.
And I think if we as people just did that in regular life, not just in dating, there would just be a difference in the way people treat each other and treat themselves. Negative self-talk is probably the biggest problem for most people, by far.
Amen. I so totally agree with that. I mean, it's, and what changes, what shifts when you believe in yourself is everything. It's your value at work. It's your relationships with your friends. And you see this global shift, and people often say to me, "Oh my God, you're not just a dating coach. You really helped me with my whole life." Well, yeah, that's the purpose of the work that we do.
Absolutely.
A better dater is a better person, and right. So it always has to start from within. So let's talk a little bit about red flags, because I had a client this morning who she's keeps pointing to the positives and ignoring the red flags. So she made a list, and she's afraid to totally cut things off because there's so many nice things. And I said to her, what if you had a friend who was just, a really nice person she was really successful at work, and she baked really good chocolate chip cookies and she brought them to you when you were sick, but she talked shit behind your back, and and she did a few things like that. Would those cookies taste really good? Would you keep her around for the chocolate chip cookies? I mean, we do that with men all the time, and men do that with women too. So, so what's your opinion on why women do ignore those red flags?
It comes from a place of lack, and it's like you hear so many people say, like, "Oh, I don't want to go on another first date. I don't want to start over," And it always reminds me of that episode of Sex and the City in Charlotte's like, I've been dating for like 15 years. When is he coming?
Right.
When you get to the point of desperation and you allow temporary and okay for now relationships into your life, that is why you continue to ignore red flags, because you're like, it's okay. He was kind of a jerk to the waitress at the restaurant, but I'm sure he's not like that to everybody. No. Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, you're not going to meet somebody's mother for probably 60 or 90 days, so don't worry about how he treats his mom. Worry about how he treats servers. Worry about how he treats people in party stores. Worry about how he treats people, service people in general. Look at those kinds of things about how they treat other people. Those are red flags that people always miss. Oh, he was just having a bad day. It doesn't give you the right to demean another human being, So, but again, stop being caught up in the maybe. Stop idealizing who he could be. You have to look at who he is, not who he isn't. Right? So, and part of that, too, is you taking that little bit of a step back, actually having things going on in your own life, not trying to, stake some claim on somebody very, very quickly, and, trying to smother him with your time and affection, which just translates as needy. Look at those, first of all, look at those behaviors. When you give yourself that chance to step back, then you'll notice, does he hoard his time and use that kind of as a weapon? That's a red flag. Does he cancel things last minute, and then there's always an apology and then a reschedule? There's always an excuse. There's always a reason. There's always a crisis. Those are red flags. People that want to be in a relationship with someone else, they're on point. There's no reason. There's no excuse. They're not going to take a step back and allow somebody to come in and sort of pick up where they left off. They don't want to lose an amazing woman because they didn't step up.
Yeah.
Right? So basically at the end of the day, actions have to create patterns. And when those patterns and actions match what somebody is saying, there you go. Green light, green flags.
Yep, I so agree. And people make excuses. Oh, it's not a big deal, like you said. He's having a bad day. Oh, that's But he didn't say anything bad to me today.
Well,
so
thing.
We have to.
Whoever you choose to date, marry, cohabitate with, whatever. This is the best way I tell people all the time. They, just as your children would be, they are a reflection of who you are. Your choices, the choices you make. So when they go out in the world, they're a representation of you, whether you choose to believe that or not. So if you choose somebody who treats people poorly, you look like an idiot. Because somebody's got to think like, wow, you think that that's acceptable? You don't make very good choices. You know what I mean? So just as you wouldn't want a child you were raising to go out in the world and be very, very rude to people because you would feel embarrassed. Like, that's a part of you. Someone you choose to be in a relationship with you, that's a part of you too. You didn't give birth to this person, but you chose to allow them into your life. So when they're out in the world, they are a representation of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and I think people they don't take a step back enough. You know, when you're in it, it's very hard to see. And also when you have sex, it's even harder to see. So that's also part of the issue, which is a whole other discussion. But yeah, we could talk for another 5 hours, but unfortunately this show is coming to an end, and this has been fantastic. Thank you so much,
yes.
Lisa. And
my pleasure.
Tell everyone how they can reach you.
You can find me. My website is Detroit, just like the city Detroit, datecoach, all one word, .com. You can find me on Twitter at Detroit Date or at the Lisa Schmidt. I actually have 2 different Twitter accounts. On Facebook, facebook.com/the Lisa Schmidt. And if you ever want to catch a live stream, I'm on Periscope as well. But you can get all that information right on the website. Lots of freebies and all kinds of good stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for coming on and sharing some of your wisdom about why successful women are single. I hope people really take this advice to heart because it's good advice. I definitely stand behind it. And I want to thank everyone for listening in today, and I hope you all go on your last first date very soon. Have a great day.